Welcome back, brothers, to the 801st Legion podcast, the Star Wars Legion podcast. Super fun stuff to talk about this week. We've been waiting, and they're finally here. We've got the TAC droid and the generic commander and all the other specialists. But this week coming up, even more exciting things we're going to talk about with the mini extravaganza. So without further ado, punch it, Kyle.
Hello there.
You must unlearn
Dark
what you
side
have
of the
learned.
Force is a pathway to many abilities.
Red, red,
some
green, or red,
considered
green, red.
I know.
The gods will do!
Sorry about the mess.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
General Kenobi.
Let's rearrange some architecture.
Is it possible to learn this power?
I thank you for your hospitality.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Impressive.
I'll show you the dark side.
What's going to happen when I just don't include that sound effect?
We're going to start with you saying that exact phrase, and it's going to be really awkward.
Oh boy, it's been a week.
It's been like a week and a half.
It's been a week. Okay, so here's the thing, okay? The new minis, they're pretty cool. We have like a whole list of things we're going to talk about today. But there's a lot to talk about, so we kind of have to keep pushing forward like just from the get-go. But first of all, it's like get into the groove of things. Of course, the new minis came out today. Matt, how you feeling about them?
I'm feeling very good about them.
Yeah.
They're very good, and we're going to kind of... I think right off the bat, they are very, very good for their armies. And I have a hot take that we'll kind of talk about later about kind of their impact on the game. But I think for the two armies that they represent, they are very good.
Yeah, I would very much agree. There's actually even the ones where I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Or maybe even cards that came in this expansion where I was like, I don't know if that's going to get much use. I've already seen things just like having it in my hand and like holding it with my collection. There's that extra feeling of like, oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw somebody post a list the other day that was a AAT repair list.
Ooh.
And so there was just a bunch of healer droids whose only job was to just like stay by the AAT and heal that one wound.
I wonder if you could even do that with two AATs.
One might say you probably could.
One might say, yeah.
I do think that's going a little heavy on the AAT side of things. Like
Heavy, huh?
Super heavies, double critical.
Oh no,
I can't. But like, I think it's going a little on the heavy side there. But there is some good stuff. I think the only one that I don't think we'll see a lot of use is the Viper droid out of the droids pack, just because it's
the observation portion.
Mm-hmm.
Like really,
Yeah.
maybe that's a hot take itself because I would have thought that would have been like.
Well, I think
Brilliant.
about like the observation tokens from like Maul's droids and stuff, and they're fine, they're good, they're helpful, but they're just not that impactful. Like the aim action, I feel like right now still helps. I mean, maybe in the future we'll get enough of them.
No, I see what you mean. Like, congratulations, you get to reroll one
Yeah.
white die.
One white die. That's
Dad,
great.
can I have reroll? Yes, but we have reroll at home.
Well, it's
Reroll at home, white die.
It's not the same as surgery. Yeah, and if you don't have your search token, you still don't search. But like, it's funny because the way statistics work, when you roll that die, it actually resets the math. Because so your stats don't change every time you reroll, but you get to reroll those stats and see what you get.
I actually had this very same conversation with a friend the other day that it's totally unrelated, but it was this idea that like, oh, well, if I rolled a hit on this, or if I didn't roll a hit, my chances are that much greater on the other dice. I'm like, that is not how that works. It is the same odds.
Yeah. I'm sorry. If you have a white die and a white die, it's always the same odds, unless if you surge or something. But like, changing dice color in this game is the best way.
And you know, the funny thing about odds, you never get to tell me about them.
Shut up. Yeah, don't tell me about the odds. But yeah, they're fine. I think that's the one. I mean, I've even been hearing a lot of talk around like doing the double apprentice list. Like Marshall's Let's Go to the Mall, or not that one, the double the mall lists, you know, where it's Dooku and Maul.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
When are we gonna play with that? When are you gonna?
I should do it
pants
soon.
Me with
I
that?
really should do it soon because I already like the idea. Or even one in Grievous and then just taking wounds off them. It's cool. But what about for the Republic stuff?
Yeah.
How do you feel about those?
No, I actually feel very confident with the Republic stuff. Even the stuff where I was like, I don't know. I'm like I said just a few minutes ago. I'm slowly coming around to it because there's this thing about practicality with minis in this game. Where, okay, for example, the medical clone unit, he only heals one wound, and I'm still not sure that is going to get a ton of play considering like he's pretty expensive, but he also adds the black die to your pool and everything like that, and that's really cool. The only thing I'm just not sold on is just the fact that, the thing I wasn't sold on was just, did he have really any place? And while I'm like experimenting with these minis, and granted, I didn't get to play with this one in specifics, but now I want to. I can see this mini being really helpful and useful in certain lists that I would like to run, like maybe like a Anakin Obi-Wan list or something like that. But I guess we can get into things that we both played a game this week, right? With these new cards, the everything came out on Friday, and then we both played games that evening. So we can kind of give our experience as to that. So I guess I'll just jump in with my experience because like I want to give context because I feel like if I don't give context, I'm just going on a tangent. So I actually played a list where it was double tanks, Padme, R2, Ayla Secura in one tank for Field Commander, obviously, and then some clones. And then actually no, I didn't have Ayla Secura because I put Rex in the list, and I ended up doing like a last minute thing where I like took a couple heavy upgrades and put Rex in instead. So the whole idea of this list was to utilize that new beam card, the air support card. And so I put that in my list. And then I also put on Vigilance, and I also put in Inspiring Presence. And oh boy, Inspiring Presence I want to get back to in a minute because I love that card.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that we need to talk about because that might be one of the most... that might be one of the biggest game changer cards that came out in this release. And I will come back to it, but I went all in on the beam. So my turret or my two tanks, my Saber tanks, both had beam guns, and then then Rex played the 2-pip round 1, and then Padme stood by and quick thinking round 1. So in round 1, I had 2 regular attacks with beam from the tanks, Padme's standby, so another one, and then Rex's command card. So I had 4 total beam attacks with like complete suppression just being passed out across the board. And I got really lucky on my rolls, and that's why I'm like, a lot of it felt really good because I got some really satisfying good hits. I not completely annihilated, but I got rid of Inferno Squad quite fast. And then there was like Gideon left over, or whoever the leader is when I can't remember the last mini. And I just let him live until like finally a beam took care of him, you know. And I really like the list. I think the air support is going to be, I think the beam idea is going to be better with the lats if they come with the beam, because I suspect that those are going to be cheaper. So if you want to do a beam meme is what I'll call it, then the lats might be better for you. But that's like a quick synopsis of my game. How did your game with the minis go?
It was pretty good. Before we move to mine, I actually want to know, you never said why the Inspiring Presence.
Okay, I guess we could take over. We could talk about that. It's for one thing, and really one thing I guess this is just a prediction. I haven't gotten to play with this combo in general. But the Inspiring Presence, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's the new command slot upgrade that's going to give whoever the card is attached to, your army can use their courage value from range 1 to 4 to check if they're panicked. That really goes well with War Weary, because it completely negates the whole commander requirement with War Weary, because they're using my operative, Padme, who has the command slot, instead of anything. So I can suppress the crap out of my opponent, and they're still relying at War Weary to be in range 1 to not be panicked like super easily. But hey, my army, if I get suppressed, shoot, dude, Padme has complete board control.
Well, the important thing there too is like, 'cause it says it can still be reduced, but it's reduced by 2 in War
Right,
Weary.
exactly.
So you still have a range 2 bubble. But it also, I like that idea with using it with Padme, because Padme has a courage value of 3.
Yep.
And with the changes to the way operative courages work now, you can't really check with operatives anymore. You have to check just your commander.
Yep. But that card
Yeah.
like circumvents that is why I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So I think in the near future, I'm going to try and force that hand more. I mean, even so, being able to like kind of move up and still be in that suppression check range of range 1 to 4
Were you
was
guys
really
playing
nice.
War Weary as well?
No, that's what I'm saying. In we didn't play War Weary in this game, and that's why I didn't get the wombo combo off, so to speak. But just her being able to share that suppression at that distance, or that courage value, excuse me, at that distance when I had to move off, or when Rex had to go off on his own to get a good angle for his beam, it worked really well because he got suppressed more than his suppression value the first round. He was at 3.
That's crazy because you guys are throwing suppression all over. Because
Yeah.
you were playing against the Iden 333 list,
Yeah.
but with Krennic and Death Troopers thrown in, right?
No Krennic and Death Troopers. It was Iden, then Gav Tank and an E-Web with the Imperial Special Forces. The Gav Tank is still kind of the Gav Tank in my eyes, by the way. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I'll report back when I get a chance to play more with that wombo combo of War Weary, seeing if I can't like really force my opponent to just hate the suppression in that game.
Well, I'll be honest. If it wasn't Iden with the ISF, I think there'd be problems. Because when I looked over at the game you were playing, it was like, end of turn 1, and there was 4 suppression on most models, and you guys were playing hostage exchange.
Yeah.
Like that sucks, because if your opponent's running away with a hostage and you just are losing move actions, I know your opponent ended up playing Tac Strike turn 2.
Yeah.
Because they just needed to get that move action off. Like it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and I know you had a game recently with a player that used the beam turret on their tank, and the results were the opposite. It seemed like that game didn't go well for your opponent on the beam at all. But you were also playing droids.
Yeah, like if I can be completely honest about that. So that was a couple weeks ago, and the first time, well, not really the first time, but the first time on an actual table that I had done the Tac Droid. And what I did was I proxied him in, and then we agreed to proxy Sabine's cards for the generic cards, just so I could do it. And I ran that stat list. And it was... So the tank got set up into a place where he thought that I was going to go. So he set up the tank a little early, but that let me get the staps on the flank. So the tank was kind of stuck facing and shooting at the rest of my army the rest of the time. Like, I had the B1, 1 B2, and then 5 B1s, and then the triple snipers, and just classic. But granted, his dice were not the best.
Sure, yeah.
But that being said, because he kept throwing his big attack at the B2s, and they kind of weathered the storm for the first couple turns. But then when the beam went off, it was just roll die, roll die, roll die, and he didn't have the best because he was missing on a couple of attacks. Like, he was averaging like 1 hit per roll.
Yeah.
Granted, the suppression was there, but with
your
droids, you just don't care. So you're still getting both your actions. And then when the Staps were able to finally put some damage into the tank, that kind of took care of it.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing there was the fact that, because the beam is still good, I feel, but the main attack, like we talked afterwards, if he had the twin laser turret, the B2s could have been gone a turn earlier. Just because it's more impact, it's more dice. And with droids, the big thing is, like, the beam attack is great when you have the chance, like, that potentially could kill 2 models in a unit. With droids, you've got 6. So if you're not throwing that massive dice pool, you don't really need the crits. You don't really need anything. You just need to have, dice saturation. It needs to do something to it. And it's funny because I think originally when that came out, you and I were pumped because that seemed like the droid trailer.
It was
because it seems like it in your head.
It's like the flamethrowers. It's like, oh my gosh, all these minis. It's like, I guess for the flamethrower, it's a little bit more so because, like, that unit is probably going to get deleted more than likely. But yeah, it's like the salivation over this idea, like, oh, I can just beam and just destroy all these droids. It's like, great. I'm sure the opponent is thrilled that you're not shooting Dooku.
Well, it was right, or my Staps, or my Tac Droid, or my snipers. It was funny because that game, the attrition game in it, and we'll get back to this because I'll talk about my game in the Tac Droid, and we'll come back to our thoughts on that particular list with the 13 activation Staps. But we were playing payload and just against the clones, and the attrition was just... We got to that point where we kind of looked at it and we just went, well, I guess that's it. The attrition's over. But we'll come back to that later. But it was just I wanted to hear that take on it because there were some things.
I didn't get to try the Commander, which I want to next time because I want to try Bolster, but we get that kind of impression from your game, right? Like you got to use that. I guess let's just go into your game.
A little bit. Like if I can be honest, yeah. So this week I ended up using the TAC Droid because I played a couple games over the past few weeks because there's just been a lot to play and I've had opportunities. So the TAC Droid came out Friday. And I got to play him with the actual guy and the actual cards this time. Glued him up and played him. But this time I didn't run the Staps because I gave my opponent the choice. I brought a couple lists because the Stap... Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit too, but the TAC Droid is a very big enabler for Droid lists. He kind of says, here's a blank check, cash it however you'd like.
Yeah.
And in many ways that's great because it offers list diversity. It offers options. You can run fun things. It means you can run operatives fully kitted and still have a lot. But it also, we'll get to that with the 13 acts where we fall on that. But what I ran the TAC Droid, Cad Bane, just normal loadout, offensive push, ascension cables, and his gauntlets. And then I ran 2 sets of full BX droids, the two of them with the sniper rifle for the extra body, and the lethal, and then also with offensive push and swords. And then it was just a 6B1s with the E5C and a regular strike team with offensive push.
And strike team?
Yep.
Dang.
And my opponent, he was running a Bosk generic commander, sorry. He was using the Veers model because the other guy wasn't painted. Bosk with the generic, and then Shoreline. And rather than snipers, he was running saboteurs.
Interesting. Haven't seen those in a while.
It's been a minute. Because I really enjoy my opponents trying to figure out lists to run because the game did show me that I think there is a big place for Bosk, and I've kind of talked about this with people in our community lately and on the Discord. But like, Bosk is highly underutilized, I think. But anyways, our command cards ended up we put them out, and it was like intercept the transmissions, sabotage the moisture evaporators, recover the supplies were the objectives. So not the best setup for him, and because he was trying to avoid getting any of those, we ended up also getting limited viz. So his limited viz, advanced positions, and what do you call it? Not advanced positions, major offensive, sorry.
Oh, okay.
And recover the supplies. So that was super interesting because with the droids, you just turn 1, scout up, and you've got your sabs done, turn 1. And with Bane, I was able to put his tokens in a way that there was the 2 tokens like about a speed 1 movement past his sabotage points, and my other Bane token was just a little off to the edge, so you could trigger 2 of them but not the 3rd. And so there was this mind game of, well, I'm pretty sure that's CAD, which means that's the bomb, which means I can't go to this one, but if I'm wrong, that's the bomb. And so he kept trying to trigger it with his saboteurs, but triggering with the saboteurs and the shore troopers ended up being a little hard because that was painful. Yeah, it was very interesting. And then Cad Bane, when he did finally go off turn 2, he was able to get right into melee and start counterplaying the sabotage point because he had a group move up to trigger the bombs finally. And then when Cad went, Cad just jumped in, got into contact with the objective as well as the unit, and was able to kind of lock down a 3rd sabotage point for me.
That feels
and the
so
game
good
was
when
kind
that
of
happens.
over after that.
Like
Yeah.
being able to like tie up a unit while simultaneously like scoring an objective. Oh, that it's like one of the best moments.
Well, I hate to say because like after that, like because the sabs kind of fell apart after that, like the saboteurs, and I was able to get my BXs into melee with Bosk and with other units as well. So like with the mortars, and if you cohere them in a particular way, the mortars can't get out of melee. And so to add insult to injury, Cad Bane turn 4, he pops. Turn 2 he moved in, got into melee. Turn 3, I had the token on him, and because I was just out activating him by that point so much because the saboteurs had all died. So we were actually even. We were 11 acts each. But with the saboteurs gone, he was down 3. So Cad activates last, electro gauntlets, and then moves away towards the generic commander.
Cad
And then
Bane's doing so much for you at this point already.
At this point, I'm like, okay, I have 2 Sabs locked down. That third one is already weakened, and I'm about to move in on the 4th with my droids with the swords. And then the generic commander, he was running around the back of the base, the bunker, to try and hide from Bane. And so like I said, I'll Electro Gauntlet the guys that he's in melee with, kill all of them but one, move away. Next turn, pop his 1-pip. He played a 2-pip off boss to try and get the Reptilian Rampage. And Cad Bane moves, shoots the generic, jumps over the last remaining corner, so he's behind the bunker now and out of the line of fire, and triggers steady for the second shot. I got bounty off on him too. So it was a little bit of a very powerful win for the droids there.
Explain that to me again. So he moves.
So his 1-pip gets him 2 attack
Right,
actions,
that's the missing
but he
piece.
has steady. So
he can do it, yeah.
So he speed 2 shot out of cover around the corner. But because the entire army was right there and they can just turn around and shoot him, I then jumped up over the back corner.
Right. Okay.
And then got the last shots on him with Pierce for the kill. So at that point, it was a good game, but there were some bad dice rolls and some good positioning by Cad got me the points. So I ended up winning 6 points on sabotage and a 7th point off bounty, which is the only time I've ever gotten bounty off. But it felt good, and it was strong. It was very strong, and I felt bad. We kind of called it. I looked at him. I'm just like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, I'm sorry. The dice were just not with you that game.
The force of dice just not with you.
Yeah,
man, that's actually kind of crazy because like I guess we're gonna come back to this like a lot, but when Cad Bane first came out, you were not impressed with him, but now he's just doing so much work for you.
Outside of that couple games with the TAC droid, I think I've run him in every droid list I've taken lately.
That's
which
good to
is
see.
hot. Which is a very hot thing considering Maul is, I think, objectively just the better operative, but he costs so many more points that taking stuff to support Darth Maul is a little harder to do.
Oh yeah, I can see that for sure. And you did a killer paint job on him, so
Thanks,
I mean
man.
on both, but yeah.
Yeah, on both. The Maul was hard to do to get the little grooves and stuff. But I think in the end, like the whole point of that thing was just to talk about how the TAC droid really enabled that list.
Yeah.
Because being able to just cut so many points meant that I was able to do BXs with a heavy and with swords and offensive push, which meant that there was really no dead activation from the BXs. And once they're in melee, like there was just such target priority problems. And then with the B1s also being able to take heavy weapons, it meant that they weren't useless. It meant that they were able to get enough hits, at least enough hits through to force you to have to roll defensive dice. It was very interesting.
I actually really want to run against this list because it's becoming, well, I mean, not to the exact T, but this archetype is becoming very popular from what we're seeing around the interwebs. Am I correct?
Oh, like TAC droid stuff?
Well, this like high activation now that because like it's been in Tabletop Simulator for months, right? So, granted, we've said on the channel before, like we're not huge fans of Tabletop Simulator, but we still got lots of people coming through and talking about like their experience in Tabletop Simulator. And something I hear time and time again is just how great the droids are now that they finally feel like they've always been great, but some other folks, are saying like, oh yeah, it's really cool to see that the droids now have like their swarm list if they want it, and I agree. Like that just seems really cool to me.
Yeah, and I as a droid player will admit I think it's pretty cool, and I like being able to sit down at the computer, my phone, wherever, and list build and know, hey, I'll make it work with points. The scary thing is what all these other people are able to do with the points. I mean, if we talk about just Invader League, which is happening right now, 11 of the droid lists that made the top, well, not the top, but they're in the elimination rounds, 11 of them were 13x stat lists, which are, after having played that list myself, I don't want to say it just runs itself, because you can definitely get yourself into trouble. But it's a very, very difficult list to figure out how to deal with. It's definitely something else.
Dang.
But we are seeing a ton of list diversity out of the droids, where there's so many different things getting played and so many different variations.
Well, it must be nice when your core units don't feel like a tax as much as, like, well, it's more of a tithe rather than a tax.
Blessings from the Lord.
Yeah, it's kind
the
of
Lord
weird.
Luke Eddy.
Yeah.
We pay you an armadicum of interest. Yeah.
But it's like if I want to, if for Republic, for example, if I want to go heavy with like some Jedi, or with a tank, then I feel like I have to go lower on the clone troopers usually, just because like, well, I want the points, right? Well, I think I did the math the other day and it equated to like 3 droids is 2. No, it's still less, isn't it? Yeah, 3. It's like 1.6 or 7 clone trooper units. Anyways, you get so much more bang for your buck if you're just trying to like put in core units just so you can have core units. So I mean I'm really excited to be seeing all these new ideas where like, oh yeah, I threw Grievous, Dooku, and Maul in one list, and then I just had like some B1s, and yeah, I still had 8 activations with Staps, or well, I don't know, like I haven't ran that list, or I haven't made that list myself, but that's an idea. That's all I'm saying.
No, I do think there is something going on, if you know what I mean. The thing that kills me too is you can still get good high activation lists with people, but you kind of end up nerfing yourself a little bit. I think clones are a perfect example because there's so much discussion about those 13 act lists, and I think the problem is not necessarily the 13 acts as much as it is what those 13 acts can do, right? Yeah, because like exactly like you're saying, there's so much you can do with it. There really is a lot, and we're kind of seeing that with the diversity. And out of the droids, there really isn't a bad unit. I mean, Staps, the big thing they got going for them is that coordinate, and if they didn't coordinate, I don't know if they'd see as much play. I mean,
sure.
6 black dice critical 2 is like Luke's lightsaber pretty much.
Which is nice.
It is really nice. And you're getting a movement, so you're very efficient on the actions, but like if you said, like I sat down and I tried to figure out what you could do here, because you could hypothetically get a super high activation like clone list, but what does that actually end up looking like when you do that?
Oh yeah, not it doesn't look pretty, let me tell you that.
Well, it's a little awkward actually, because you kind of end up being in this position where like I think 12 is the most I would do on them, because it's like a generic commander naked.
Yeah.
And well, you could probably actually give the generic commander aggressive tactics. And then you've got like a phase 2 with oh gosh, what is that? The mortar, and then you have like a phase 1 with 5, so you can get the coordinate. So you can do like a 12 axe that I don't think is terrible, but it's not like super efficient.
Right.
And then there's like 20 points that are weird, and that also includes 2 arcs teams and 3 barks. So you can do these high activation lists, but you're also not taking these hard heavy units, and a lot of them are nakeds. And naked B1s is just not the same value as naked other cores.
Yeah, well, and there's also this thing we've talked about before, but like health points are a thing, right? So if I throw 4 dice at you, like I can block a lot of hits with red dice, but there's always a lot of times where I don't, or I roll blanks, or I surge and I don't have a surge to use. So let's say I lose 2 minis, which is fairly good, right? On a naked phase 1, that's terrible. My unit has 2 minis left, but you do the same attack and you get 2 hits through on droids. Okay, they're just going to keep coming. They just barely got down to, like, if you're just talking bare bones units here, the B1's health is just, yeah, sure, they're probably gonna miss a lot, but does that make sense? Am I making sense? Like, there's more to chew through.
There really is. Like, yeah, like if you're starting to get trading shots, like just back and forth, if just like any core trooper unit versus any core trooper unit, just without a doubt, you cannot kill them in one shot.
Right.
You just don't have the dice pool,
right,
unless you've got a heavy weapon as well. Which is why I think we're seeing a lot of clones still in the meta, because they can throw a lot of dice consistently.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any. So like phase 1s with Z6s. Well, I guess like there's a lot of units that have more than 6 or more dice, but 6 or more reliable dice. That's where it's getting hairy, because like the most reliable attack in the list I ran this week was with the Saber tank with beam. So I had 4 reds, 2 blacks, and 2 whites. if I with a name, it's almost pretty certain I'll get at least 6 of those. The whites are kind of up in the air, but man, when I get a critical on whites, it feels so good.
I don't know.
But that's besides the point. But what I'm saying is like reliably 6. So like, yeah, I got just enough to hit like a B1 unit. But even if just because they're white dice doesn't mean they're not going to be able to block any. So it's still annoying where it's like this 36-point piece of garbage is blocking me from, like, they have an objective or something. I need to kill them.
And you literally just can't.
Yeah.
Len, this kind of just comes around to all those points of like, well, what do you do about that? It's like I've noticed the Empire lists have gone up against recently, because this week I did end up playing against the Iden 333 list, but he dropped some points, my opponent did, to bring Krennic and a Death Trooper. So the Tac Strike turn actually ended up having 5 people with Tac Strike, which was ridiculous.
That's nuts.
It was ridiculous. And I was playing that Cad Bane list, and I played my heart out, but it was just such a heartbreaking game. He ended up winning at the very end with a lucky, well, not even a lucky shot. Krennic got a good shot to finish off a B1 who was holding some boxes and was about to run away, and that was it. But I think for sure the Empire can still throw enough dice to also take out B1s. I think that needs to be remembered.
Yeah, I think the Empire
can
for
as well.
sure. Yeah, that's true. And I sometimes get in this rut of like, yeah, I play clones. Like I know everything about dice, right?
Yeah.
I have the best pools of both worlds.
My dice don't fail. Oh, you don't save on 4 out of 6 saves? What?
It's just, yeah. No, I thank you for reminding me of that, because that's very, very true.
Well, they're the original like big dice pool people.
Yeah.
But like, can you remember Shores? Oh, this is a thought I had, because like I've been thinking about this so much, because there's so many podcasts, there's so many groups, and everybody talks about this. So you listen to these things and you talk to your people in your community, and the talk right now, a lot of it is about the Tac Droid and stuff. But I just wonder, where would the Tac Droid be if clones still had standby sharing?
I guess I don't see where you're getting at.
No, I guess I'm just wondering, like, what's the thing that I keep thinking about is like, okay, so we fixed the Tac Droid. What's the next step in the meta? Do we
For,
just
like,
go
that
back?
function?
Do we just go back to the clones? Because I'm trying to figure out how we balance it out. Because I do agree. Well, first, I think with the Invader League here, we're only like through round 1 and the playing games. So this week we'll start to see how lists are actually performing at a top tier level, and we already kind of know based on how people played. But let's say that we need to fix the Tac Droid. Do we just need to make it go up in points? Because I don't want it to be over nerfed like Shore Troopers were.
Oh, sure.
And I know there's a lot of talk going around with the clones about like, did they get over nerfed by not just taking away standby sharing, but the points adjustments? Did that help them?
Yeah.
Because as far as the game's been so far, I think there's been a lot of good changes and a lot of healthy changes. Rebels, for example, good healthy changes for them recently. But I do think there is a way of saying sometimes the nerfs are a little bit much. So does the Tac Droid need to get nerfed? Is it enabling too much? Or do you think it's one of those things where maybe too much gets changed if it does get a nerf?
Yeah, I'm definitely of the mind as of right now that we only see a small amount of what its potential is, and we're already seeing it perform really well. That's an interesting question. I don't think it deserves a nerf. It's kind of weird to talk about a unit getting a nerf as soon as it comes out of the gate, especially since it's like a unit that everyone's been asking for so long. Just like, give me a generic commander, please. Give me, or at least a commander that's lower than 100 points.
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird. Which also brings us, I guess, to another thing we could talk about that happened this week. Will Schick, during one of the AMG live streams, showed off a spicy boy that has to do with the tactical droid, so that's why I brought this up. But he showed off the super tactical droid.
It's a good looking model.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it looks
So
good.
pretty much Kashyyyk wave confirmed.
Yeah, like straight up, just like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what he wanted Luke to talk about, but Luke was like, I'm not going to talk about that.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I'm starting to think that the super tactical droid is going to be really interesting because it has the potential to be a generic while also not being a generic, if that makes sense. Like, I can see it fulfilling a lot of roles that Rex does. However, I think this might be. I mean, this is your idea, but where we start seeing title upgrades to like certain units, like this super tactical droid. It can be Kalani, it could be Kraken, like it could be all these different or TX. No, what's the STX? Is there an abbreviation, or do they just call them Super TX?
I'm sure there is one. But like, I can look it up. But
Yeah,
like,
but anyways.
I think we just know it as the Super Tactical
Right.
Droid.
So like it's gonna be weird to see like this generic looking, but like I don't know. But he looks good. I agree. He looks like a really good model. Really intimidating and imposing with how they structured that, and I couldn't be happier with it. I think it's gonna be good. And then he even said, like the chat in that stream was even talking about like, oh, well, how about Yoda? And then what did he say? His words?
Oh, he was like, oh, we can't talk about it right now. Like, we can't show off Yoda right now or do anything about it, but stay tuned for next week. So like, it's kind of showing.
So Yoda confirmed.
Yoda confirmed.
I mean, their whole the painting that they did on the clones too. What's the 204? The 2.
Oh, the
212. What's the camo people?
It's like the 41st or something.
Oh, maybe the 212th is
remember.
Kenobi.
The 212th is Kenobi.
Yeah.
And he's on the wolf pack. But yeah, he was painting up like the camel guys.
So is the Wolfpack teasing something as well, you think?
I think that's just because he likes the wolf pack. Like,
Everyone likes
we
the
all
wolf
like the wolf pack. But I guess yeah. Like, what do you think? Do you think that's so? You think that's the way they're gonna go? Like, if changes need to happen, you just nerf the tac droid and say hold up because the super tac droid's coming out.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any changes at all because of the tactical droid. I think they'll want to see how players react to that because I think the problem that, like, I think if there's any problem at all with this high activation, high mini count that we have been asking for forever, if there's ever going to be a problem with it, it's not going to be from the tactical droid. It's going to be from the super tactical droid because he's going to do so much more for the activations. 40 points more because he's probably going to be around 90 points. I'm putting money on it. He's going to be 85. I'm putting money on it.
85 to 90.
85, yeah.
Well, we don't even have something. I guess that's true because we put him right around where Rex is.
Yeah.
And we put him right around where like Krennic and Veers are, and those guys do a lot for the armies that they help. Maybe this is where we start to see. I know this is a hot take, like a long way out, but maybe that's where we see like the entourage stuff come
Actually,
out.
my mind went there too just now too. That's
Because I
interesting.
think, and I'll be honest, like this is something that happens with the droids because the list, the 13 act one that everybody's like, oh, the 13 act will stop. The only reason it works is because you're droids.
Yeah.
You can do that same thing with Empire, but it's a little harder to control your units.
Because there's no coordinate. There's like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the coordinate is really the thing that enables it. And that's kind of why I brought up standby sharing clones, because with that was something that was innate with the clones. That
So I guess
changed.
specifically, you're more so asking not necessarily the unit, but when you say enable, you're saying like it's like it's almost encouraging people to abuse that. Is that what you feel?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And like,
so I'm understanding you a little more clearly now.
Exactly.
I don't
like
think
Magic
that's
talks about this in their articles all the time, where they're like, we stop enabling cards that's like the spark to make the combo go off. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because that's where the brokenness happens. And I guess it comes down to like, does that mean the droid should ever have a cheap commander? Because if anything gets cheap enough, you can just keep. Because let's be real, the 13 act stat list, if you have a commander cheap enough, you can still kind of make it work.
Yeah, I think the only thing they would ever change,
And, yeah.
I think the only thing they would ever do to it, like if they were to nerf it or quality of life improve it or whatever, I can see them. There's only like X amount of coordinates that can be shared, right? So like if like say you have you're castling, so to speak, with 2 tactical droids, and they direct, and then that direct turns into coordinate. How many times should you be allowed to coordinate up? Like how many? Like if you have 6 core units and then BX droids, how many? Like should you be able to effectively 4 of each row? So 8 to 10 activations on the skimpy side of just order control, just because you brought the right unit.
Well, right, and and on top of that, like when you get vehicles that do this stuff, like it's exactly like it's like how far should it go? And I think you get to that weird point where you start saying, well, then what's the droid identity?
Right.
And that's kind of why I bring that up, because I think the big thing is it's going to be points, and if you make the tac droid and I say this because I've heard other discussions about it, but the big thing to do is the tac droid, if there are changes made, it needs to go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when you also have a bid, and then granted, when it comes to the droids, I think the droids, they still need the bid because that's where they get a big advantage.
Sure.
Yeah. They have to play the objective. They're not going to outshoot you.
Sure. Yeah, every day.
So I understand that.
No days.
But when, yeah.
No days will they, yeah.
But when the average bid for a droid player is not like 8 to 10, but it's kind of 12 to like 30 in one of the lists.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It's a bit too much.
Granted, a lot of the times they got that from just dropping a heavy weapon, but maybe that means that heavy weapon should go up 1 point.
Yeah, it's not a bad point
Take
you
it from
make.
18 to 19.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't seem like a much. But that turns into a 6-point difference. And I think because if you're running just 6 naked B1s, 13 acts is not different. But when you have 13 acts with heavy weapons, you know what I mean? Like there's some ways to work around.
Right. No, the 13 acts of just B1s is 13 acts of B1s, but no, I have 13 acts with commando droids that have swords with pierce and not pierce, but charge, and there's so much more things that come along with being a high activation count. I don't know. But we have to move on. We're running out of time here. We want to get to our last little segment here, where we discuss our first segment that we've done like this in a while, but our double vision.
Man, so classic double vision.
We haven't done that in a long time. Eventually, I'll buckle down and I'll get us like some sound cues so we can actually have Vader say that for us. But for now, it's just us and our wimpy Vader impressions. Double vision.
Every time.
Anyway, so as we all know, the big mini extravaganza is coming up, right? We wanted to lay down some predictions of what we think is going to happen regarding Legion or Star Wars at large, if we feel so inclined. I guess I have a couple things in mind, but I want to hand the question off to you, Matt. Like on Saturday, the 18th? What's that date? This Saturday, upcoming Saturday at 9. Oh, man, I'm getting all my times messed up. I can't even finish the sentence right. But anyways, this Saturday they're going to be showing off AMG's new or the Legion panel, right? And that's more than likely where we're going to be getting some spoilers and some looks, maybe even at like, okay, I say spoilers, but I don't feel like we're going to get fully spoiled on a lot of things. I feel like they're going to be like, yes, Yoda's confirmed. Yes, this or that. So I guess, do you have any predictions for this panel or for this upcoming week for the mini extravaganza by AMG?
Yes, actually. I think one big thing is I think they're going to announce new game modes. Mm-hmm. I think that is a big thing we're going to see. I think they'll announce something that's more narrative, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is with Star Wars Armada and even like Warhammer 40K, War Machine a little bit, Malifaux, there's always like a story aspect of it. Like Warhammer has the Crusade mode. Armada has like the campaign expansions. I think we're going to get something like that. Because we're to a point now where you can do narrative play very easily. Because factions are like... The Rebels and Empire are still about a year ahead of, clones and droids. Yeah. And clones and droids are to the point where they started getting like shore troopers.
Yeah.
They're about to that point. You can start doing narrative play super easily. Yeah, it'd be really cool to get.
And I think we're also like with that narrative, we're starting to see this point where it's like that year of lead time that the Galactic Civil War had feels smaller with how much stuff as time goes on. You know what I'm saying? Because we're always playing catch up. It feels like.
Yeah, and that doesn't help that like some of the newer stuff we're getting that was supposed to be the similar releases are much better. So it does feel like you're getting caught up. But I think it'd be really cool to do a narrative play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, like, epic encounters,
Oh,
yeah, like they've alluded to before, right? They want to do, like, Vader down, right? That'd be fun. What other predictions do you have?
Well, with that, I think... I know it's a long shot, but I would love to see Scum and Villainy. I think it'd be
You
so
took
cool.
it from me.
I can't take it from you if we talk about it like every other episode. Like, I don't know if this is the time they do it, but they have already worked on Mandos. They've already worked on some other stuff. I mean, we're caught up to the point where I think it might be okay to release new faction, but I also wouldn't mind if they said, hey, we're gonna do a new faction. It's not gonna play at all like the others, but we're releasing it in 2 years because we want that starter box plus a lot more on top of it.
Interesting.
But also I want Hondo, so yeah.
I also don't know how I feel about the idea of announcing something and not having it come out 2 years later.
Superstar
Did jarring. Oh man, there's just so many things I just wish that it wasn't that way. But I agree. I think Scum and Villainy is going to get talked about, or at least addressed, right? Like, yeah, we know you want it. Bye. They might do one of those.
Well, this was yours. What did you think? Because I stole it from you.
Well, that was one of the things. I personally think if we're going to keep on with the thread of the Scum and Villainy, I personally think that we're going to see them play, how you said, differently. But I can't shake this feeling that there's going to be like a buying aspect where it's like there's allegiances. So like, yeah, you have Boba Fett and Jango Fett or, Hondo, but they have like ties to a certain side of the war. So they're going to be a little bit cheaper to get onto that. Like different point cost is what I'm saying. So like they have like, they'll have like their Scum and Villainy cost. But if you want to play them in this army, then they can. But they can't, like for Jango Fett, for example, like he can play in Scum and Villainy. If you want to play him in Separatists, maybe he costs like 5 points more. I'm just throwing out a number. Don't read too much into that. But he cannot be he's not compatible with the Republic. But Hondo is the inverse of that, where he can be Scum and Villainy, costs a little bit to put him in Republic or Rebels, for example, but he cannot be in the Empire or he cannot be in Separatists. What do you think about that?
I actually really like that. I mean, I can see where some people would get confused to be like, well, why does this guy work with this faction, but these ones don't with this? And sure, there's narrative and there's balance reasons, but I think it's super easy if you just like keyword like mercenary X and it says the factions right on the top. Who can take them?
Yeah, like maybe mercenary is a keyword. Like if you're taking this in it costs this extra points, and X is how many points they take.
You're taking.
That'd be so creative. Oh my gosh.
But also it says like which faction. So like mercenary Republic X, mercenary.
Yes.
And so it'd be a cool way to do it, and you just do that, and you can make these blanket generic people. Because this is another double vision that I was going to have. Having played a bunch of Cad Bane, I think a double operative list would be amazing, where you run double bounty hunters for the Separatists. And I think that'd be cool.
Heaven knows they ain't doing that for the Empire.
Oh, I know. There is one of those lists, I think, in Invader League. We'll see how it does.
Wow.
But
okay.
Yeah. But I think it'd be a cool idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because, hot take, with so many cheap commanders running around, bounty hunters don't have to work as hard as they used to.
Yeah. And also, like, I would be remiss if we didn't mention that, of course, it's the easiest prediction in the world to say that the Kashyyyk wave is coming. Like, we know that that's going to get talked about now. Like, him pulling out that super tactical droid and then talking about Yoda during that stream was like, all right, so we're good? Okay, cool. What else?
What's on top of that?
Yeah, because, like, I'm still of the mind that they're hiding something from us. Whether it's a new faction, which, I mean, I predict that, I'm going to say this. I would like to see it, but my heart of hearts does not let me predict that. I think this might sound a little annoying to hear, but I don't think they're actually going to have anything to show us. I think they'll address something. Like I said, I think they'll at least address that we want more factions. Like in some way, shape, or form, they'll address Scum and Villainy, or they'll address sequel trilogy era. But I don't think they're going to talk about it very much. What I think they will talk about, and it keeps going back to the Star Wars picture as a whole, they're itching to do a galactic protocol. Like, I think that there's going to be something that crosses over with Legion where you could, like, a new game mode, for example, like, not necessarily a thematic play, but, like, where you take your Legion minis, your heroes, and your operatives, and your whatever, and it's, like, skirmish plus, right? So it's, like, its own game. It's, like, the X-wing to the Armada, so to speak. You know?
Well, do you remember in Battlefront 2, like the heroes versus villain mode?
Yes.
And I guess it's in both Battlefront 2s. But
Yeah.
like, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. That would be awesome. It then just gets the sloppy question like, well, do you make new models? Well, it didn't really work out for Imperial Assault and Legion to both survive. Is Crisis Protocol unique because there's no like larger war aspect going on? Like, it's hard to say. But I still think that they're going to talk about something because let's be honest, skirmish doesn't see a lot of play. Like, I love that it's an option, especially when you're teaching someone. It's a great tool to teach. But I don't see anyone chomping at the bit to play that. So if they were to entice us to play a smaller format of Legion, where it's like I said, like skirmish plus, I think that'd be cool.
I would love to see something like that. It would be such a nice way to maybe invite other people, because I know with us before, about a year ago, we had a skirmish league going on up north.
Yeah.
In Ogden. Well, not Ogden. It was like Clearfield. And that was a great time. Yeah. A lot of fun. But the whole reason that was going on was because a lot of the people who wanted to play were married gentlemen, and you can't quite get away from your family obligations long enough for a full game of Legion sometimes. Like on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, even a Friday night, you're committing 3, possibly 4 hours because you got to drive, then you come to the store, then you get set up and you shoot the shit with your friends. And then by the time the tables are set up and you play, your game lasts, 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
Closing time of the shop.
Yeah,
but it's like 9 or 10.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. You're there by 6.
And even if you finish early, you're
by
talking,
9.
like you said.
Yeah, and then you're home by 10. Like, you've just given up the whole evening. It's a big commitment. That being said, I do enjoy bigger games, but I could see something like revamping, like a new game mode or something. Yeah. I do have 2 big things to bring up, though.
Okay. Are these like realistic?
I think these are very realistic.
Okay.
And I think the first one, Diffs has brought this up on the Discord so much, and I think it's very true. Could we potentially see the announcement of epic vehicles?
Oh, dude, you already know I'm already on board with
like
that.
AATs.
Dude,
do you think we get the AT-AT?
You already know I'm on board with this. Like, even if they just put up a JPEG of like the AT-AT, like not even in a mini yet, they're like coming in late 2021. I'd be like, all right, so I'll expect it in about 3 years. Cool.
Coming in 2120. Wait, you mean 2021?
Nope.
No, 2120. 100 years from now.
This is our first 10th edition announcement for Star Wars Legion.
in 100 years from now. Yeah, no, like it's I'm just saying, like, I think they could announce something like that. We've seen ships get scaled down. We've seen other stuff get scaled down. Yeah. I think they'd be the ones to do it, and I think it'd be cool.
Honestly, like, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of scaling fluff to go on with it, but I've seen so many people on Instagram and stuff compare like their AT-AT toys with the speeder from Legion. It's like, that's actually pretty dang doable.
They're not that far off.
They're really not. And so, yeah, you shrunk it down by like 2% to make it, fit just right. Nobody's going to care.
Right. Well, especially because like Legion, any minis game you play is taking the abstract of reality and putting it into a 2D space. Granted, Legion has a lot of 3D aspects of it, but the majority of the game is still top-down 2D.
Yeah.
The 3D just represents it, so you don't have to have it be perfect.
Yeah, and I joke about this with Warhammer, but it's true. There's a medium game. Like, this is a minis game, right? Like, miniatures. But Warhammer excels at this of having, like, these larger scale mediums. It's just my word for them. Where they're not really minis anymore because they're huge, because there's like this honking plane on the table.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to look at. And so, like, what a better way to get people more interested in your game than tell them, especially let me just say this, especially at the price point that Legion's at, how affordable it is compared to other miniatures games. You get an AT-AT in the game, and someone walks by your table like, oh my gosh, is that a Star Wars game? Just from like the other end of the other end of the store. They see this giant vehicle, whereas they didn't see the little tiny minis. They think you're just playing some other game because they're not coming close to you. But they see the AT-AT from across the store, and they're like, okay, I gotta go check that out.
He's playing a Star Wars.
Yep.
Well, it's like that's the tank effect, right?
Yes. And then it's like, oh, how much is that? That's only an $80 mini? That'd be like $300 in Warhammer.
You're not wrong. And I'll be honest, AMG now, like, think about the Super Star Destroyer. The most expensive ships were the regular Star Destroyers. Like, I think it was like $55 at the time.
Sure.
The Super Strider comes
which is now like the
straight into
cheapest ship in that game. But yeah,
which is now super. Yeah, the prices have changed, but the Super Star Destroyer is like $200 when it comes out. If you can make the model happen, I don't think at that point you're not really looking to the new people either. It's great to show people you can play this, because to this day, whenever people see the Super Star Destroyer, they still go, "Oh, that's cool. I should look at Armada." But you're really catering to your dedicated community.
That's fair.
Which, let's be real, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably dedicated enough to pre-order one and pay overtime.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you can make it cost more money. I'm still gonna buy it.
Yeah.
No, don't bend me over. But I'll do it.
Especially if like it has the ingenuity behind it. Like imagine if the legs moved.
Oh my gosh!
Like,
Do you know how cool that would be?
That'd be cool. Okay, so like AT-AT, but then we got the ATTE for the Republic.
Yes.
Super Tank Boys. What are they called? The big brown guys. That's a terrible way to say.
What are you saying?
In the Phantom Menace, they roll up on Naboo, the big dome.
Oh, the MTTs.
Yes,
the terrain.
the big brown guys.
How dare you? I get what you're saying though. The transports. I'll be honest. I don't even want those. I'll be fine if they come. But what I want is the Octoptara Magna Tri-Droids. It's the ones from Clone Wars that have the 3 legs and they're massive.
Oh yeah.
You see Ki-Adi-Mundi fighting them because they're like They're like they got the 3 legs. They look like a virus.
Yeah.
Like an actual like viral infection.
That'd be cool.
But they have this head that spins. They're big. I would like those.
They have a little glass on them. You know. They look like.
Yeah.
They look like the thing from Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah. That's right.
Anyways.
But do you want to know my second one?
Yes,
though?
I would love to know.
So we know that they're about to announce for their panel new members they're bringing onto the team. I think, in addition to new game modes, I think we're going to have major core game rule changes.
Oof.
I don't think an announcement of second edition, because I don't think the game needs that right now, especially not after the most recent changes. But I think we're going to get announcement of big changes to terrain.
That's fine.
And I'm fine if they do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how far I would reach if they do too many other changes than that, because you start getting to this point where it's like, well, yeah, but this unit literally only works that way because of how that rule was. So
yeah.
So I think we're going to see big changes from that, because especially the competitive community is still very how do I put it? It's not even on the fence. There's a lot of back and forth about the templates. And I think there's going to be some big core game changes.
Sure, and I would welcome. It's just tough because we have really, obviously this goes without saying, but we have no say in the matter. So it feels bad when it's like, oh, our game is getting taken over by another company. Okay, like people like me, Matt and I, like we'll go and play that game that they do, see how it performs. I love Crisis Protocol. I don't want Legion to be a Crisis Protocol. I would love a Star Wars Crisis Protocol. That's why I'm advocating for Galactic Protocol or whatever it is called. But I don't want Legion to become that. I don't want, I can enjoy different things for different reasons, right? I don't want it to be like, well, it works for this game, so we have to make this game more like it. And so that when you say that, it really scares me. I'm like, I don't want our game to just get changed, you know? Like, I love the design that went behind their original game. I don't want it to be corrupted.
I agree, and that's kind of why I bring this up, is because it's something in the back of my mind. I've been feeling like it's something's going to happen. Why would they announce the panels? Also say there's new people getting brought on, and I feel like it's inevitable.
Now we're just scaring folks.
I know. I'm not trying to scare everybody at home, but there is
Also, the boogeyman's underneath your bed. You better watch yourself.
Don't let your feet hang out of the bed at night.
Oh, do you not do? Because I can't sleep if any part of my body's hanging off the bed.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
No, it depends.
It's not a fear thing. It's an uncomfortable thing.
You know, I actually
also fear.
Well, it's funny is I sleep like on demand. Like if I choose to sleep, I just sleep. So it works. I can sleep anywhere. But like, getting back to the point at hand, the thing that I'm thinking here, because I don't want it. The way terrain works in Legion is so unique to other games. Some people find it extremely frustrating, and to be fair, it is very frustrating to learn at first. But it makes your minis have to actually interact with the table.
Sure.
And it takes it from being that 2D game where it's like, why the heck do we even have terrain, to actually being meaningful in the decisions you make. That doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. But it completely destroys this aspect of, well, I'm just going to line up and shoot you, or I'm just going to rush at you. Let that game with the guy in our community playing the Iden 333 list with the Death Troopers, we were playing on our Yavin terrain with the circle, the broken up circle in the middle, and then the temple pieces and all that. And there's a lot of decisions to make there with the BX droids because they have scale and they have the swords. But I can't just rush at him, and I can't just go around the terrain. I need to also be ducking in and out of terrain. I need to be making sure I'm getting line of sight blocked. And I know you can do that with templates, but templates don't provide the same level of decisions to be made. And I know this is going to be a very kind of rough statement to hear, but like it's those little decisions that you have to make and take into account for that make me really love Legion.
Oh yeah.
Scale,
Agreed.
being able to like move up and down is a very important decision that helps a lot. Being able to figure out, well, that's a wall there. I need to hide behind that wall so I can do this thing, or so I can set up for that melee attack, or so I can set up for this. And it's this kind of thing that we only get because it is such a back and forth game.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of discussion about that, but I think we will see some changes. I don't want it to be that drastic. In fact, if it got more simple, I'm not saying I'm going to leave the game, but it would very much take me time to readjust.
Yeah.
Because I don't play the game for the simplicity. I play the game for the amount of decisions and tactics. Because when you win a game in Legion, you know that you won. You didn't win just because of the turn order or because of other things. You won because you played your tactics card correctly. You played your army correctly, and you were very efficient.
Yeah, I will say there are some times, and this is maybe just a little bit too much of playing devil's advocate because I agree with you. But there is a case to be made that sometimes where like you did everything right, but your opponent beat you because maybe it was like just like a really good game and it was really close. Where you did, like I said, both of the opponents did everything right. It's happened to me before, but just one team came out on top, right? Because that's the nature of the beast.
But you still felt like your decisions were yours.
Yes, exactly, and that's why I want to bring that up.
I have to agree with you on that
because there's a clarification to be made. It's not saying that like the game doesn't allow for chance to happen because it does. You know, there could be a game-winning fight between two core units with objectives. You know, if one dies, then the game is over, and one just happened to blank their defense rolls, right? But you both played your hearts out. You know, so.
Yep. And even in those games, I've never walked away feeling bad because I've always felt like I've done my best. There are some games where, because you just go, I do my, like, and this isn't to point fingers, but there are other games where sometimes you end up just feeling bad or the game feels a little casual. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It feels overly casual.
I'll point fingers.
Yeah, you're pointing at it right now, and I'm not going to say what it is. But I actually think that particular game does it way better than a couple others.
Oh,
well.
100%.
But yeah, like there are sometimes it feels a little overly casual. And that, if you're here to play the casual aspect, you can definitely get that. But for me, it's going to be it'll be a heartbreaker if I do have to hear that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, I get where it's helpful for other people, but I don't know. Like I think we're going to see some big change. Maybe it's just the design philosophy of future characters from the new people. It may be something like that. It doesn't have to be big, but I think the fact they're doing a whole panel means there's probably going to be something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that actually leads me to one of my final predictions that I have. Because of that, like with rule changes and with like the templates and stuff, I think something we're all thinking of, like with prediction-wise, we're all thinking like, oh, new characters, new minis. I think now is also an excellent time to announce peripherals for the game. Hey, we have a new mat coming. This one's Kashyyyk themed.
How long has it been since we had new mats in the game?
Yeah, or hey, we know you've wanted premium bases for the pill base and for the extra large base. Here's some premium bases for those because Kyle's missing his Tron theme.
Just give us pre-made terrain, and I'm not talking about the escape pod either. I'm talking about like actually say this is a Geonosis droid factory.
Yep,
I would buy that.
Yeah, because like I like the idea of the bunker, the Imperial bunker that they released, but it was only just like one thing. Give me a box of like 10 things.
Here's little Star Wars bits and pieces.
Yes, because like 3D printing is all fine and good, but to have an officially well-crafted produced product is on a completely different level, especially when it's in the direct scale where there's no copyright infringement because you have the copyright. So
I think that helps too with like, and I'll say this honestly, like I've been working on putting together a terrain episode forever because, well, maybe not necessarily terrain, but how to build your tables episode. Because there are some tables where I'll walk up and I'm like, oh, so droids and rebels lose this game. Okay, GG. But there's other games where I'm like, oh, so melee only units win this.
Yeah.
I think doing that, just producing those terrain kits goes a long way to saying this is a good place to start your table.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be amazing. You don't have to have the best table, but at least says, hey, like, if you're looking for stuff, you can try here.
Something that Crisis Protocol does that I absolutely love is they put numbers on the bottom of their official terrain. So they have like a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If Legion were to adopt something like that, I would very much love it. Like, oh, this kind of terrain, it's cover 1. So that way we can compare it. If we have homemade stuff, we'd be like, oh, it's really similar to this barbed wire that Legion made. It's probably cover 1. You know, that way there's less confusion. Like, if I could go up to a table and be like, if I could just ask my opponent, okay, what's that piece of terrain? They could just tell me, oh, that's 2. Perfect. Because it's already, like, we get this from other community members that are, like, coming into the game, and I think there's no truer truth in this game right now. Terrain is some of the most clunky thing in the game. Not to say it's bad, but, like, if they had a more clear way to identify, like, what is what, that would make me so happy.
Yep. And and that's kind of the thing that I think I'm getting at is there's, like, once you've learned the terrain, I think it's okay to deal with it and you're fine.
Sure, yeah.
But teaching people, especially in a game that's growing so much, you're exactly right. Because we've had so many new people come in. And especially coming from games where it's like, oh, there is the terrain is just literally like unimpactful for the game.
Sure, yeah.
And it kind of doesn't even need to be there. It's a very big step forward. But if
yeah.
you can say, like, no, this is the learner terrain, and to a big extent they do that with the barricades.
Yeah.
But the barricades aren't line of sight blocking. They're not something that you need to actually perform a climb action with. Sure, you can jump over them, but that's not a great way to teach jump.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know. I just the accessibility thing. That's all I'm saying. Like, if I can come like I like how you said, like, once you get used to it, it's a done deal. But if I'm teaching someone new and they're like, wait, what do you mean rough terrain? And I'm like, okay, let's go in the rule book and explain this to you. You know, there's not something really like official from them.
And that's oh man, can I tell you how hard that is? And some people listening will totally be like, hey, he's talking about me, but like there are some great members of the community who have joined lately, and there's some very good wargamers.
Yeah.
And like, especially, like, I'm sure you guys are saying this at your home communities and on TTS, there is a lot of people who've picked up the game recently and are really liking it and are having a fun time. I feel bad when these people are like, wait, but where is that? And I'm like, oh, you have to have read the RRG.
Yeah.
I feel it's a feels bad moment to be like, sorry, bro. Like,
you just have to trust me on
this.
I
don't want to tell them, like, hey, dude, go home and read the RRG, because if you do, that'll make sense.
But there were so many times when we first started playing the game where it was like, we stopped the game for like 20, 30 minutes while we dug through the internet for a rule. And that's not how it should be. I'm not justifying that, but that's why we know that.
Man, you know what would be interesting is if they just made an app.
Yeah.
I think that would take all the problem out of it. And we're just saying this as a slight issue because, to be honest, I love like 99% of how the game works. And
agreed,
And that's why I choose to play this game 3 or 4 times a week and not play other games maybe once or not at all.
Yeah.
If I have the time.
And another thing I would really like them to tackle, and this is something that I know they're already aware of, well, maybe not so anymore because it was Alex Davey that talked about this, but like ladders, elevators, like these odd terrain pieces that could be really cool and useful, like there's no rules for that. Where other games, they definitely have a rule, like, oh, you get a free clamber action if you walk next to a ladder. Like, that's cool. Or an elevator, like, you can automatically just go up to the next level, right? So that'd be cool. Hopefully we'll see something like that when they talk about it eventually.
Yeah.
But that's like all we had for today. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. That was a really big double vision. I mean, I think if you guys are in your community, just talk about like the tac droid and stuff. Like, I kind of like that discussion that's going on. Because I will say this about the Legion community. We're very so focused on the meta that there will always be one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is just the new one. I don't think it's as... My final opinions on it, I don't think it's as oppressive as clone standby sharing. It's not at all like that. It's not like the shore troopers when they were back with the Tons, but even then I don't think they're broken anymore. Like,
there's always a top dog, and Legion players are very inclined to find it as quickly as possible.
Very quickly.
And like label it as such. Like there's always going to be a unit. Like for me, like I very quickly knew that the AAT is probably one of the best units in the game. Do I complain about it though? Do I want it to get nerfed?
Attack droid. Just say like my final thoughts. If anything is to happen with attack droid, make it go up by 10, 15 points, and then make the E5Cs go up by 2.
So it's really interesting that you would advocate for that as a droid player.
I know that's controversial, but like you can still work your list super well by dropping a couple heavies, and even then, like the E5S is still 20 points. So like, or maybe make it go up 1 point. Like we have so many points to spend as droids. I don't think we're gonna lose our top spot if we go up a little bit. But
Agreed.
I don't think that you should be able to have a 30
You said
point.
top spot. Are you agreeing with me that droids are the best faction now?
I think after looking at everything else and seeing the options I have,
Oh,
I would say
we
so.
won him over.
It was just this weird
Chat, can I get a poggers? Can I get a poggers in chat?
I'll tell you what made me do it. I started with the list with the attack droid, and I added all of the spec ops and support units I wanted, and then I just threw in 6B1s, and I was like, oh, I almost have like 100 points to play with here. That was when I was like, okay, maybe something's a little off.
Yeah.
I think just change the heavy. Like, I'm not even kidding. Make the E5C go up 1 point. That immediately takes your like 20-point bid to 15. That's like 14 points. That is a lot more manageable. Because at this point, like, you're making the other armies have to outbid you by entire activations just to catch up. That's not quite fair. If you win by like 4 to 5 points, good on you. If you win by 30 points, that's a problem, and it shouldn't be like that.
I see what you're saying. But yeah, that's it for us this week, guys. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section or on Discord. We'd be thrilled to have you weigh in on this conversation too. Any departing words for our listeners at home, Matthew?
No, just yay tac droid. I'm so happy.
Yay tac droid.
I'm so happy to not have to
Yay
take HQ
triple,
uplinks
quadruple,
anymore.
quintuple beam. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.